Welcome back, secret friends, to the Spotlight, where we talk to all creators and actors from all the things that we know and love. And today we have the executive producer and creator of another lovely fan production, James Heaney from Starship Excelsior. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Peter. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey.
I didn't know it was the Spotlight. That's cool.
Yeah, so now it's shining right at you.
The last guy on Spotlight won an Emmy.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm in good company, is what I'm saying.
yeah. So, yeah, thanks for being here. It's great to have you. I know we've had you on the show before, so it's just kind of fun to bring you back on to talk about your show, not just talking about Con, which was fun. So if our listeners, if you haven't heard that before, back on Code 47, we had an episode where we talked about the official Paramount audio drama, Star Trek Con, which follows probably unknowingly in Excelsior's footsteps into the audio drama world. So, something that we like to start with at on the Spotlight, especially, is like, how did you get started in doing this in the entertainment business, particularly with fan dramas, but specifically for this one? How did you get into the world of Star Trek? What was your entry point into the fandom?
I was born into it. My parents watched Next Generation every week. By the time I was a baby, I was deeply invested. When the Enterprise started blowing up and cause and effect, I burst into tears every time it started blowing up because I was too young to understand why the Enterprise was exploding. I just knew everyone I cared about was dead.
Yep.
And then it blew up again and again and again. And the episode was apparently they had to turn it off. It was too hard for little young James.
Consolable.
So I've been a Trekkie my entire life, and I don't think my parents realized quite what they were creating when they exposed me to it at a young age. Uh, but
Nice. I'm the same. Like,
yeah,
there are stories that I've been told of, you know, reruns, because I wasn't really conscious when the main run of Next Generation was happening, but reruns, like trying to sneak into the room while they're watching it as like a 1 or 2 year old or something. So like, yeah,
adorable.
yeah. So cool. So lifelong Trekkie, fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, so Starship Excelsior is an audio drama.
that's
So,
right.
um, would you be able to explain for our listeners what that is and what makes that different from maybe what they're used to, like maybe a book on tape? Well, Audible at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And then after that, if you wouldn't mind explaining how you kind of got into the audio
That world.
engineering
Yeah,
part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, an audio drama is it is a little bit like an audiobook, except an audiobook is generally read by 1 to maybe 4 people. I mean, if you're really big budget, you got like 3 people to play the main parts and a narrator to play every other part, and then it just
Mhm.
reads the book out to you. An audio drama is not a book; it's a radio play in the spirit of NPR's old Star Wars or the BBC's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or the whole half century of radio plays before we really got around to television. The old
Okay.
Lone Ranger shows are so it's much more like a television episode for your ears. It's got a full cast. Some of our episodes have as many as 30 or 40 people in them,
Yep.
playing all sorts of roles. It's a scripted drama. There is either very little narration or no narrator at all. It's just people moving around on set, and then we provide sounds to help bring that whole set to life, so that you are able to inhabit it in the theater of your mind. I always recommend to people who are just listening to audio drama for the first time to turn it on and then turn off your monitor. Because we are habituated these days to, whenever there's something playing on our ears and our eyes are free, we start wandering, we start looking around, we want to go to YouTube and see what else is, and we get distracted. We don't have the attention span for listening anymore. But if you
Mhm.
turn everything off, you turn it off, close your eyes, and just let yourself be immersed in an audio drama, you can go to places that you can't even go on screen because they are too difficult to pay for.
Yep.
Even with the $8 million budgets of New Trek, we could not do some of the things in on film that we can do in audio, and that's what makes that world a joy to me.
Yeah, kind of
Oh yes, and then you
ties
asked
that
how I got
whole
into it.
yeah.
Yes, I was in high school actually when I saw Starship Exeter's first
Oh, yeah.
episode.
Mhm.
I think it was called no, the Trisari Intersection was the second one. The first one was called the Savage Empire. And that was sort of the beginning of a flowering of fan film because there was
Yep,
that, and there was Star Trek Phase 2 at that time called News Voyages.
yep.
Star Trek Hidden Frontier was going strong, and it was just a lot of
Mhm.
Trekkies making fun little shows for themselves and their friends and putting them on the internet. And it's like, wow, this is new Star Trek stories. We could, we could do this. That's so cool. Um, I, however, was a high school student with a budget of nothing. And I thought, well, that's never going to be me. I can't ever do that. I also don't have the post production, the video skills, or the post production, or any of these things to make an hour long episode of Star Trek. And if I did try to make it, it would take me
Let a
years to do it. I mean, you remember the
let alone
Trisarian,
the sets and
right?
costumes and what have you.
Yeah, making the Trisarian intersection, as you may recall, took them like 15 years for a 1 hour episode of Star Trek. It was a really good episode of Star Trek, I thought, but it's just the fan film cycle is very slow. Uh,
Mhm.
but then one day I was browsing around the internet. I ran into a show, Darker Projects was making a show that they just started called Star Trek: The Section 31 Files, which was audio.
Yep. Mhm.
And I listened to that and I thought, one, this is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying myself immensely. Two, holy crap, they're able to make episodes every month or two. They can do a whole story. They can actually do arcs, which you can't do in these fan films because they take too long between episodes.
Yep.
So we're really getting the full Star Trek experience here. Three, I thought, I'll bet their budget is really low. I'll bet I could do this. And then that idea sat there for a number of years until I found it went to the back of my head. I actually wrote an audio drama script in early high school, and I thought we should make this. And then my friends were like, "No," and then I looked at it, was like, "No, this is actually garbage." They're right. I threw it away. But years later, I was running a Star Trek RPG that
Mhm.
was desperate for recruitment. The game was on the Sovereign class USS Excelsior, and I said, "How are we going to get more recruits?" Oh, I know. Let's make an audio drama of our adventures. People will then listen to it and they'll want to join our game. And that was how Starship Excelsior launched originally back in 2007.
Neat. You
Yeah.
actually beat one of the questions that I had,
Oh,
which was that the piece of trivia that it started as an RPG, um,
yes. Now
which
lost to the sands of the internet, alas. But
yes, which I think is unique among fan projects that I've seen. I don't think very many other ones have started as
yeah, a couple
RPGs.
have. I got in trouble actually because I originally announced back in 2007 or 8. I said we're the first Star Trek fan project based on a RPG, and I got a note from somebody involved with Star Trek Defiant, which was an audio drama produced by Pendant Audio. Also now lost mostly to the internet, unless you know exactly where to look. There are some secret stashes of it, but that was also based on a role playing game.
Huh.
Yeah, so there's my really deep trivia.
So because because it started as an RPG, you and obviously Defiant did it as well, but like
Mhm.
it puts you in a unique position that I don't think a a lot of fan productions don't have, but also like the main Star Trek productions don't have, where um it's made by fans, but then it's also an adaptation, started as an adaptation, and then also evolved to tell its own story. So how does that work? All these like three different like facets of creating a story work for
Well,
you.
I like to think that having such a unique sort of positioning gives us it forces us into some positions that we might not otherwise I might not otherwise by my instinct go to. One of the things I loved about being in a role playing game was that the players would just do stuff, and then I would have to adapt to it and I'd figure out how. All
Mhm.
right, how's that going to fit into the story? Okay, well now there are a bunch of bugs swarming all over the Excelsior. Where did those come from? Why are they doing that? How am I gonna? How do I adapt to this? And so that always was forcing us to new places in the story, and that made things much richer than they might have been if it had all just come from my mind.
Yeah.
But yes, when we started the series, I was very married to, especially because it was still very actively a recruiting tool for the role playing game. I was very married to, we're going to do a line by line adaptation of the original role playing posts. And by the
Mhm.
end of season one, we're starting to move away from that. And then in season two, I'm saying, okay, well, we need to keep the idea of the role playing game. And every season, we got a little further away. By season four, we're doing completely original stories. And here in season six, we have actually run out of material from the original role playing game, and are doing entirely our own stuff without any contact with the old game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was wondering when you were gonna run out of material. Makes sense that it's about now.
Yeah.
So, neat. So you mentioned before that Excelsior is a full cast audio series. So you have like everybody's got their own voice. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
different people can voice multiple characters. I've voiced a couple
If you
background
ever want to hear
people.
Peter Stein, guys, on a radio show, he plays a very nice Romulan, I believe.
Yeah, I play a Romulan and I play a bug. Who has an unfortunate experience. Um, but yeah. So you have a full cast for the
Yeah.
series and all the episodes. Um, what's your process for casting those people? And has it been hard to I mean, obviously with like normal shows, you're getting a paycheck and so you're sticking around because that's your job and that's your livelihood. But with like fan actors, it's just the passion project. And so like how
Mhm.
difficult is it to like, hey, I need this character to come back, or sometimes we lose people. Um or sometimes they just like they don't want to be part of the project anymore and they
Yes.
vanish off the face of the earth. So how hard has it been, like, keeping cast members or especially when, like, you enjoy a character and you wanna see that character come back? Because I know that
Yeah.
other projects have that, but, like, how is it for Excelsior and for you?
We've been very blessed from the very start. We had we did open auditions for in the pilot, and we had about three fewer auditions than we needed for the episode for like
Oof.
actual parts available. But they were, for the most part, very talented. We had some very talented people in there, and we did a couple callbacks, and we got our starring cast hammered out. I thought very nicely.
Yeah,
An odd trivia
they
fact
do a
is that
great
one of
job.
those people who was in the pilot episode and then was unceremoniously killed partway into the season is the Hugo Award winning Alastair Stewart, who people may know from the Magnus archives.
Mhm.
But he got his audio drama start in Starship Excelsior, being killed. But so we had a really talented group that came in, and then we were also very fortunate that for the most part they were willing to just keep doing it. They enjoy it. None of them were pros. None of them were looking to make that next step up into um, professionalism. And so it was like, well, this is something I like this character. I want to keep coming back to this. They were so enthusiastic about it that many of them went on and auditioned for Outpost. And then you hear
Mhm, yep,
our cast in Outpost a lot. So it has not been as hard as it should have been because we have a terrific group of people who joined up. And that I can't credit myself with. It's just, we got lucky.
yeah,
Um, we have, of course, had a couple people over the years who have, not been able to make the same time commitment or who have decided
mhm,
they don't want to be part of it anymore. And then we have to adapt. Sometimes we write someone out. I have
yep,
always, from the very beginning, been okay with recasts if it's an important enough character.
yep,
Uh, I don't really have the J. Michael Straczynski trapdoor plan. Like, if this person dies, I'm going to replace him with this person, and the plan will go on as before. I always found that a little dramatically unsatisfying anyway.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it is easier to recast voices in a way.
in a way, but
N
in another way, it's
not
harder.
exactly, but
Yeah,
like, it's kind of it's a mixed bag, but, like, it's not the immediate, like, you look at that, that's a different face. It takes a little bit more discernment to figure out
I'm
that it's a
not
different
sure
person.
that's
It depends.
true because,
I guess
like,
it depends on the person.
take Tora Zial. Tora Zial changes character. She changes cast like three or four times, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes in the middle of an arc, she's just, she's a new actress now,
That's
because that
true,
actress
yeah.
wasn't available. But you can't tell because she's on that makeup.
Yeah.
They dress. It's like, okay, there's a young Cardassian woman. It must be Tora Zial. At least I don't know about your brain, but my brain always goes immediately. Oh yeah, that's Tora Zial. I don't even notice the difference until I look on Memory Alpha.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it depends on the camera angle, but yeah.
it's fair.
Because
Um,
sometimes I can pick up, like, even under the makeup, like, that
yeah.
is not the same person.
With voice, people only have that one thing to hook onto, and so if we change it, it is disruptive. But we try and, if we have to do it, we'll write in the person using the catchphrase a lot, try and kind of bake that new voice in. It's hard,
Yep,
but so
it
we
is.
really try to avoid doing it. But sometimes it's necessary. So,
Yep,
and if we've been running a show, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but Starship Excelsior has been running since 2007, so that's 19 years. And that,
yep,
19 years of a show, and inevitably comes up occasionally. And again, we're very lucky it's only come up as often as it has.
yeah, yeah. And even you had the one instance where, like, a character got recast and the original actor came back, which was quite funny, I thought.
That was pretty good. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, Nathan had been busy in college, and we cast Phil Stonehouse in his role. And then Phil was a guy that our director Jim had picked up from his musical theater company, and he wanted to go professional, and he was only doing Excelsior as sort of a temporary thing. He didn't
Like
realize
a
that.
demo reel thing, yeah.
Yeah, like, and as it became more of a commitment, he was like, I don't really want to. This isn't what I'm here for. So we lost him, and then I was like, well, I don't want to recast him again. Nathan was still my close friend in real life, so I asked him if he was free, and he said, "Oh yeah, I could come back and do that." And he's been with us ever since.
Nice. Which is just
Star
great.
of the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. Um, so as you mentioned, Excelsior is in its 6th season, been around since 2007. So yes, listeners, we know it is not the math does not math correctly, but that's fine.
yep,
Fan productions run a little bit slower, but we're talking about arcs here. It's okay. Um, so since it's been around since 2007, Excelsior has run into not one, not two, but many new official productions that insert major canon events, some of which have like direct bearing on the time period that Excelsior takes place in, which is the post Nemesis 2380s,
right.
for those who care. Uh, but so with that kind of like new insertions, how do you work on making it work or not?
Right.
Especially now that the official canon has made its forays into the audio drama sphere.
Right. Uh, when we launched, yes, it was 2007. The J.J. Abrams movie had not, I don't think it had quite been
Oh,
announced yet, or it
oh,
was going
yeah,
to
it
be
was announced in, I think, late '07 or
late.
early
Yeah.
'08.
I was really, really into that Wikipedia article. I controlled that Wikipedia article for about 6 months. Uh, but I've now forgotten all the details of the dating. But we started in 2000. Yeah, we started in early 2007. So I think we beat that out. So at the time, it looked like Star Trek is dead for the foreseeable future. We have free reign to do what we want, and no one is going to come after us except maybe the books. And the
Yeah,
books are doing their own very intense thing, and we're not going to be able to, so whatever. And then the Abrams movie comes out, and we said, okay, it's a Star Trek original series era. That's not going to be a problem. And then we found out it was going to be an alternate timeline. So it's like, that's even more not a problem. They're doing their own thing. So
and
our approach
and
to
then
that
the
was,
bookend happened with that happens in our universe,
yes,
in the main
they did
universe.
blow up Romulus. But at the
Yes.
time, it was 2382 in our show. We thought, well, that's 5 years in the future. We don't have to worry about that either.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, then our initial approach was we're just going to accept that these new Abrams movies have happened. We'll occasionally reference them. We don't want to like lock people out. Be like, oh yeah, that's we had nothing against them. They weren't interfering with us, and so we were like, they're part of canon. That's Paramount's decision. And that's cool.
Mhm.
And we'll respect that as much as we can. That became a lot harder when the new stuff came out, but the new Trek, because the new Star Trek shows, many of them were set in our time period or just after our time period,
Yep.
and so now it wasn't. The Abrams movies were something we could draw inspiration from occasionally. We eventually did do a story about the destruction of Romulus, which
Mhm.
I thought it was a really good story. Whether or not you liked the Abrams movies, the story we told about Romulus going up was, I thought, a really compelling bit of drama. But now, with Star Trek Picard establishing things about the Borg in the early 25th century, I remember we were in production on an episode about the Borg at the time, and it was like, oh no, they've just changed how Borg transporters work. That was one of the plot points in our episode. We have to go and rewrite this in order to. It was very messy, and as more and more of it was coming out very quickly, and I was watching all these episodes, just being like, how is this going to interfere with Excelsior? I eventually realized that the attitude of the people at New Star Trek themselves was, we're not going to let old stories or other stories get in the way of the story we're trying to tell. And I said, we can adopt that principle in Excelsior. We respect that. We'll occasionally draw inspiration from it, but we're going to tell the story that we set out to tell back in 2007. We're going to finish that story, and I'm not going to panic every day that we're interfering with canon, whatever canon is. Excelsior is its own thing, and that is fine. And we're going to try and be ecumenical about who listens to it. We have some fans who get incredibly angry at us every time we mention new Star Trek, and that's
Yeah.
tedious.
Yeah.
And then there's other fans who are like, why isn't this fully compliant with new Trek? And then it's like, we can't be. We didn't have it was not physically possible for us to be fully compliant with new Trek. So
Because you came out before.
we
So
came
yeah.
out before. We had stuff that was going on. Oh my gosh, I was so happy when Star Trek Picard revealed that the villains in season 3 were not the Bluegills, because our whole spoilers for anyone, not really spoilers, it's more a foundational premise kind of thing. The Bluegills are a very big deal in Starship Excelsior. The Bluegills from Next Generation's episode Conspiracy.
Yep.
And so I was very relieved that Star Trek Picard did not end up using them.
Yep. I
Um,
remember you and I were going back and forth multiple times when Picard season 3 and when Discovery season 4 were coming out, because there were a
yeah,
couple like moments where we were just like, oh no. It
yeah,
ended up not happening,
right.
but
But I realized I just couldn't live like that. I couldn't make a show while also worrying about what this other show might do to my show
yeah.
entirely by accident, like stomping on a bug. And so I was just like, all right, we're gonna separate it. We are what we are, and they are what they are, and that's great.
Mhm.
So we are welcoming towards people of all fandom stripes.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, that's cool that we've got like even like we've got the whole thing about the multiverse anyway, so it's like, you know, all these stories can exist kind of together,
Yeah.
just not in the same spot.
Was it Herman Zimmerman who speculated, or was it who
I
was it
think
who
it I
speculated
think
the
it
temporal
was
Cold War broke it?
it was Zimmerman or it was Drexler. I don't remember who
It
exactly.
was one of those two. You're right.
Yeah, it was one of
Um,
those 2 and I can't remember, and I
yeah.
didn't ask Drexler when we talked to him. So, you know.
That's too bad. Well, I liked his theory. The temporal Cold
Yeah.
War messed things up. Just go with it. It's like, all right,
Yep.
that's fair.
Yep. So, all right. So, Excelsior has released a new episode as of April 1st, I believe was when it
That's right.
released.
We finally got an April Fool's Day episode on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, this is not necessarily an episode you want to start with, because it gets deep into the lore, as it
Or
were.
alternatively,
Or well, yeah, it's true.
maybe it is an episode you want to start with, because it's all about this background lore stuff,
That's true. It
but it
could be
doesn't
a very
actually require it. We
yeah.
kind of wrote it deliberately to be like, it's almost out. Someone commented, and this was not a positive comment, I should say. Uh, while I was listening to it, I kept thinking, oh, that was a nice hat tip to Star Trek. That was a nice reference to Star Trek. And then I remembered that what I was listening was supposed to be Star Trek, and then I was sad. And I was like, all right, yes, but
Uh,
but in a positive way. Some
yeah.
of my favorite Star Trek books are the Star Trek Terok Nor series, about
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bajoran occupation.
Mhm.
And really, a lot of my favorite Star Trek books, not just those, are the ones that are just on the edge of the Star Trek universe, where you're like, this is in the Star Trek universe, but I don't need to know anything about Star Trek. I could just read
Yep.
this as a sci-fi novel on its own, and it's
Yeah.
an exciting novel that doesn't have any big stakes in the rest of the
Yeah,
universe.
it's got all the Star Trek trappings and everything, but it's not using like, and here's the Enterprise, and here's Captain Kirk, and here's,
Right.
you know, the Romulans and the Klingons and whatever. It's not just always tied into everything. Yeah.
Yes. And those. So this is a sort of the edge, a similar edge of the universe sort of story. It's about aliens. Aliens, the Iconians and the Bluegills, who I mentioned before,
Yep.
and some of their past. which, as we reveal in this episode, they do have a closely related past with one another. But
Yeah.
you could just pick it up and be like, oh well, who are these alien races?
Yeah.
Because there's no Starfleet in this episode.
Mhm.
There's no uh, there's no sound effects even from the regular Star Trek show. Almost, I think there's one. Um,
There's 1 or 2, I think, with Isaac, but that's about it.
that's probably it. Yeah. So it might be an interesting entry point. I would love to hear how
Yeah.
someone thought if they listened to Starship Excelsior's as Sancta Grief as their very first episode, because it's very different from anything else we've done. And the next episode is going to be very normal. There's going to be an adventure. They're going to be on a spaceship. They're
Mhm.
going to do adventure stuff. It's a space adventure. It's like we owe the listeners a good space adventure after what we just put them through
After
with
all the
this weird
drama of the
thing.
last couple episodes, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about that? I mean, obviously not getting too much into the spoilers, but, like, you said it's a little bit about the backstory, but, like, maybe some of the kind of the ideas behind, like, what brought that story about? Like, why did you want to tell that story at this point in the
Right.
grander scheme
In the
of it all?
grand scheme of things, it does it was well, I say you don't have to have the mythos to the whole Excelsior lore to get it. The reason it came up now is because of this at the particular point we're at in the Excelsior lore. Um, we're exploring the background of the bluegills because well, without getting too spoilery about future episodes, we're about to see that relationship evolve a great deal.
Yeah.
And so we need to have a better understanding of who the bluegills are and why they do what they do. And then we've been hinting at it for years and years and years.
Oh, yes,
The
very
the
much.
basic concept of this episode has been hinted at since 2010. Um,
Mhm.
and now it was just okay. The listeners need to understand who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing, or they're not going to be able to respond appropriately when things happen in the coming episodes and we finally turn the corner to season 7 and the final season and the final arc.
Yeah.
um, that was a very evasive answer. I feel bad
That's
about
totally fine.
it.
It's very rare that we get
Yeah,
someone on here that's, like, actively creating something that, like, we're gonna see down the road. So a lot
yeah,
of times we're talking to people who have been here and, like, their thing is done.
right.
So,
um,
yeah,
yeah, the
you guys
theme
are
of it, I've always thought of the bluegills, and this has always helped me ground them as it's so easy to make them like zombies or Borgs or just straightforward villains.
Mhm.
But I've always tried to ground the bluegills in us. Um,
Yep.
Star Trek always has its greatest strength when it sees the human in the alien. Uh, and here it's a negative thing, obviously. But like the bluegills in Excelsior talk more like 21st century Americans than anyone else. They use um, colloquialisms. They talk ironically. They make the kinds of jokes we would make. They worry about the bluegill equivalent of college entrance exams,
Yep.
um, and that humanizes them. And I really wanted to give them a background story, given that they are monsters that take over your brain and control your mind, and then take over your whole family and your species and the galaxy. I really wanted to make it clear that they aren't different from us fundamentally, and so that
Yep.
was the motivation behind this episode, is to say, if you were in this situation, you would hope you would do better than these people did, but you might not.
And you
Uh,
can see how.
you can see how they wouldn't. You can see their temptation and
Mhm.
why they did what they did.
Yeah.
Not an excuse for galactic genocide, but
No.
I really like to understand evil and how that arises.
Yeah. As opposed to, like, the Borg, which are more of a force of nature rather than, like,
Yes,
people doing
exactly.
doing bad decisions.
Which is why Excelsior, despite having the Borg looming very large in the background of our mythos, they're always kind of back there. We never actually explore them in any way because there just isn't much to
No.
say about the Borg. They are, like you said, a storm. There's something to be run away from. When we did
Yep.
one Borg episode, the writer Colin Heyman, who is also a friend of yours,
Yep.
um, uh, just said, "Yeah, we're not gonna like talk to the Borg. We're just gonna you just run from the Borg. We need to be scared of the Borg.
Yeah.
That's the thing that sometimes
They say their line
modern
and you
yeah." And
crap
then you
pants
go,
and
"Oh
run.
no, we can't beat these guys." And he was very clear that we were going to write an episode where we did not beat the Borg.
Yeah.
We escaped the Borg, and that is, I think, the best way to do the Borg.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
It's like I've been working on and off with some other audio projects that I've been trying to do, and that's how like there's one that I've been working on that's been dealing with the Borg, and I try to approach it the same way because it's just like the Borg need to be terrifying, not just like, oh, and we found another way to use nanites against them. Sweet. Which like
Yeah.
not to knock everyone's storytelling, but like it does lessen the terrifying nature that the Borg
Yes.
were
I would say,
originally supposed to be in, like when we first saw them in early TNG.
yeah. There were a lot of good Voyager stories that on their own I enjoyed, and I'm not even sorry they were made, but they did spend down that capital in the
Yeah.
overall sort of economy of the Borg. And my goal with the Borg was always to return them to their Q Who roots.
Yep.
They're going to kill you. Run like hell.
Yep. Run far away
Yeah.
and run fast because if they find you, you're done.
Yeah. There's no
Uh,
Borg Queen in Starship Excelsior. They're
well,
referenced but never seen.
yep. Which is fair,
Yeah.
I think.
And also,
Um,
it's a lot of fun in audio to do the voice of the Borg.
it is.
You
Yeah.
get, because if you really want to do it right, you get your whole cast. Have you been in one of these choruses?
I have not. I remember the
Oh,
first time that I heard it though, because I was not a part of anything at the time.
right.
Because it was like I had met you, we talked about it, I went home and I listened to a bunch of the episodes, and I got to that to I think the Wreck and the Hesperus or whatever, whichever episode it was. No, it wasn't Wreck and the Hesperus. One of the season 3
One of those
episodes.
arc episodes. Yeah, the big ones.
Yeah, there's one where like the probe shows up and then the Borg show up and then they like we are the Borg, and I just remember going, "Oh, this sounds just like the movie."
Yeah,
I geeked out a little bit because I was like, "Wow, how did they do that?"
yeah. The lines are a huge bear. They're a pain in the butt to produce. Because what you do is you record the line,
Yep.
then you send that line out to every single person in the cast, which is again sometimes 30 or 40 people, and you say, "Please record this line exactly to the same timing as this line."
Yeah, the
And of
exact
course,
cadence.
no
Yeah.
one's ever perfect. If it were perfect, it wouldn't work. But they're always, if they do a good job, you can get it close enough and line it up, and it sounds like there's 100 people saying we are the Borg.
Yep.
And then you can add a chorus effect on top of it, and it really sells it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. It's just it's a fun one to do. It's one that like when I've been working on a project, I'm like, man, if I ever get to the point where I get to do that, that's gonna be a lot of
Yeah,
fun to
I'll
do.
be in your Borg chorus, Peter, any
Yes.
day.
That'd be perfect.
Actually,
Uh,
what I tell people is, imagine you're in church. Do you know how in church, when people say the Nicene Creed, they all sound like a robot because they aren't thinking about what they're saying at all? Do
yep.
that.
That I remember growing up a couple times and everyone started doing the creed or whatever and just being like, this sounds like the Borg.
Yes, I had the same thing growing up. This must
Yeah.
just be a
Maybe it's a young Trekkie thing, but it was just very funny because I was like,
yeah.
you sound like the Borg. What's going on here?
There's
But
no emotion. There's just
yep.
that cadence, but everyone says it just in time because they know the cadence.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you're going for.
Yeah. It's hilarious. So quick, like quick thought of, I guess, when you finish Excelsior, um, is there another story that you would, I mean, obviously you're involved in some other stuff, but
Mhm.
like when you're finished with Excelsior, is there another story that you would enjoy being able to tell? Not something that you necessarily are, but something
Mhm.
that you would like to be able to tell.
Yes. um,
Perfect.
I I don't know what the future will hold after Excelsior. The team will have been together by that point for nearly 25 years if we keep to our current rate of making 2 episodes a year. We'll probably finish after about the 24th year of production. And so there's a
Wow.
live question of, guys, do you want to do any more of this, or are you just ready to hang it up? By that, Jim Spagata, our director, has got to be. I don't know how old he is, but he's He's old, or older. He's getting up there.
Mhm.
Not in a disrespectful way. Just he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
He was experienced when we got him, and he's been a brilliant person. And I find it hard to
Yeah.
imagine doing a show without him. So I would certainly ask around. I'd say, "What do you guys want to keep doing this?" If they do, we would go off and do some kind of original project. I think, or at least a project that isn't. It is surprisingly stressful over the course of a long period of time to know, one, you can never own the thing you're making because it's copyrighted by
Yeah.
someone else, and two, they can kill it
At
um,
any time, yeah.
at any time, and we have to finish the story we're telling. But I'm ready to be done with that aspect of it.
Mhm.
Uh, I have some ideas of places I'd like to go. They're very different from the world of Excelsior.
Nice.
But I'm a huge sucker for time traveling cops. Uh,
Ooh,
I don't
yeah.
know if you know this about me. I loved Continuum. I loved Life on Mars. There's a third time traveling cop show whose name I've forgotten that I was very into. Um, I just the Journeyman Project. Did you play the Journeyman Project when you were growing up?
No, I never did.
Ah, time traveling cop whose job is to fix time travel problems. Love that.
Nice.
That is a trope I want to build a show around. But we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
that'd be
Otherwise,
fun.
I'll probably be a novelist. I don't know.
Yeah. Other than having to, like, rebuild your entire audio library from scratch. Well, at least all the sci-fi sounds, the
Yeah.
footsteps and, ambiance is kind of generic.
Yeah, we have
Um,
a lot of sound effects in our library that we can keep on using. But yeah, we'd
yep,
have to get into new
yeah,
new musical scores,
yep.
avoid some of the more obvious Star Trek. Although, frankly, people use Star Trek sound effects in all kinds of things all the
Oh, they
time.
absolutely do.
They absolutely do.
I've
I
been
don't
s I've been sitting in, like,
understand.
major motion pictures and, like, leaned over to someone like,
Yeah,
"That's an alarm from this episode."
yeah. One
So
time, the local talk radio program started playing an alarm and said, "What is that alarm from?" And I called in. I said, "I know what that alarm is from. It's the alert from the Devil in the Dark on the mining
oh, man,
levels."
yeah.
Uh, is, why do you have that? Why is that playing on the radio? But I hear that. I still hear that alarm in other places
Hmm,
on various shows, and it's just sound effects get reused. And
they do.
apparently, there must be some kind of deal between the studios because they don't seem to sue each other about it.
No. I mean,
No,
I guess it's just harder to do when it's sound than
yeah, one little sound.
yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I, I don't know.
Um, well, great. So this has been great. I've really enjoyed talking Excelsior and all of that. So thanks so much for taking the time to
Oh, thank you. I
talk to
always
me
enjoy
about
it
it.
more than anyone in the audience, I think.
I mean, sometimes you just enjoy the stuff that you make because it's kind of for you. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
true.
I mean, I know that like the really crappy audio thing that I made like a couple years ago and was like, "Hey James, take a look at this. I made this." And it's pretty crappy. But, I listen to it cuz it's like I enjoy the stuff.
It's
It's
yeah,
like I did this. I made a thing.
I made it. And when you write, you tend to write towards your own interests.
Yep.
Uh all my stuff is some of my favorite stuff.
That's fair. So if anyone wanted to get like wanted to talk to you about it online or just find Excelsior and listen to it, how would
Oh
they
yeah,
go
I should have
about
said
that?
that I should have been saying that every 5 minutes in this. We're at starshipexcelsior.com is our main website. It has an email address attached to it. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, we're on any number of other podcatcher services you could name.
Yep.
I have some on my phone and now I've forgotten all their names. Podcast.
I've linked some of them in the show notes. We'll make
Excellent.
sure people see them.
I always read email to Starship Excelsior protonmail.com. We have a note for new listeners that's saying here's some good places you might want to hop in
Mhm.
if you're new because our first episodes are pretty rough.
Yep.
It was a rough time. Although I keep getting comments from people saying don't talk down on your first season. Your first season was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun.
It
But
is a lot of fun.
we
But
we
like
grew a lot.
if you do compare it to later episodes,
Yeah,
the old newer ones are
yeah.
better production value, I suppose.
Better production value, better writing, it's better all around.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, starshipexcelsior.com if you are interested in finding our little adventure. We will
Sweet.
attempt to entertain you.
Awesome.
and we've got a 19-year backlog. So genuinely, I think there's if you take Excelsior episodes and line them up against next gen episodes, there's like 3 seasons of worth of Excelsior episodes right now.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of material out there.
Yeah.
So that if that's attractive to you, great. If that scares you off, I don't know, just listen to our best episodes, which
Yeah. Or
we've
just listen to
mentioned.
a couple from season 4 and 5, which have some
Yeah,
episodic stuff.
yeah.
So,
Listen to the one where we had Sulu and where Uhura and Chekhov and
oh
Savik
yeah,
on.
forgot to
Yeah,
mention that one. Yeah,
that was a fun one.
you had a 50th anniversary. You were able to bring in some actual like Star Trek alumni. You know, I should be able to decline that properly. Yeah, I brought in some actual alumni, which isn't the only time you've done that. Like you got
Yeah, we grabbed Ursuline Bryant for
yep.
Tryla Scott, which was a lovely thing to do. But yeah, that was the big one, and of course, it was the last one because the
Mhm.
fan film guidelines came down shortly before that episode came out, but after it was in production.
Yep.
And so we released that, and then no more guest cast from outside. But I couldn't have asked for a better episode to end it on. We
Yeah.
had a great time, and I think we brought a nice ending to the story of Nyota Uhura, among
Yeah.
others.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that yet, listeners, check it out. So this has been great. Listeners, if you're seeing this on our free feed, you can always check us out at patreon.com/secret friends unite and check these episodes out early, where you get like the video and the audio just straight to your ears or your eyes much earlier than everyone else. But other than that, you can also check it out on our free feed. Um, so it's been great, James.
Oh, thank you,
Thanks for
Peter.
being here, and I will bid you adieu.
Live long and prosper.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.